the legacy of the generations. And Vivian would have been early. We were on time, but there's so many. That's a blessing that to seat us all, it took more time. So a couple of quotes about Vivian. The first one is that every single person who I spoke to said she was the sweetest, kindest person. And there was a moment where I thought I could say that, and then we could all just leave, because there's almost nothing else to say, because that kind of was the umbrella of everything she was. She was the sweetest, kindest person. You know my story. I probably have confessed this a few times, and that is, when I moved here, it felt like every lady I met's name was Murov. Maybe Muslims, but mostly Murovs. And it's not that I didn't know all the Murov ladies. I knew who they were, but if you asked me to remember their names away from them, I'm embarrassed to say this. But I eventually remembered Vivian by saying she was very sweet, very petite and very sweet, and I always remembered who Vivian was because of that. There was a wonderful quote that someone said, who said, "Those Murov guys sure knew how to pick women." And that's a blessing. And I am so grateful, and we're all grateful, that the Murov guys picked women, brought them to Shreveport, and raised their kids here. And it made Shreveport a better place because of that. So knowing Vivian, it's hard to be sad because she makes you smile just remembering her. And I took that into consideration in what I chose in my readings. There is a new rabbi manual, and some of you have heard this poem. I kind of love this poem, and I thought it was appropriate for her. It says, "And the child asked, 'Tell me of life.' And the sage answered, 'Life, my child, is a mystery. We do not ask to be born, nor do we even understand the meaning of birth, of creation. We grow and we experience life's pleasures and pain. We love, and slowly, oh so slowly, we come to realize that we have become, that we are. At that moment, we humble ourselves before the mystery of life and quietly say, though I knew not, I have been granted the most precious gift of all, the gift of life.' And the child asked, 'Tell me of death.' And the sage answered, 'Death, my child, is a mystery. It is the inevitable return of the gift of life, the gift which came free to us. We live as the trustee of that mysterious being, of that unexplainable becoming. Yes, you and I are but the trustees of life. We nurture it, we delight in it, we give of it to others. And at the appointed time, we sadly, yet with pride, return it from whence it came. The beauty, my child, is that we are, that we have become, remains long after the gift has been returned. It remains as a precious keepsake with our loved ones who live on.' I'm going to ask you an important question. We've been doing this throughout the whole holidays. Is anyone sweating to smithereens here? Are you freezing or comfortable? Sweating. Can I take a pause for a moment and talk to you about checking the air conditioning here? Karen said that when she saw it before, it was set for heat. And now it is saying cool. There you go. Let's see what happens. Let's try. It's humid. It doesn't have to be. We remember Vivian and join our hearts together to give comfort and strength to her family. Mourning is a time filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. We begin our service with the recitation of psalms and prayers, thus linking Vivian's life with the millennia-old tradition of the people Israel and the eternity of God. I turn you to the back cover. Adonai ro'i lo echsar benot deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yenahaleni, nafshi yeshovev. We read together, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. My cup runneth over. I feel like that was her. But also, Eshet Chayil miyimsa v'rachok mipninim michra. The poem, the proverb at the bottom of the page, please join me with that too. This was her as well. A woman of valor, who can find? She is more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her, and so he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm, all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hands to the poor. She is clothed in strength and dignity, and she faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband sings her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you, doll, you excel them all. Don't you think? Kind of written for her, don't you think? I know I've said that before, but really. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ואינם. There are stars up above, so far away, we can only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. I'm going to invite two people who have been selected to speak on behalf of the whole family. First, I'm going to invite Ellis to please come up. And as he comes up, I want to remind you, you have a responsibility. You need to tell stories about Vivian, because we're not going to sit here and take time for everybody to tell all the stories. We'd be here for 93 years. So please, go out and tell stories of Vivian, starting with Ellis.
I had prepared a few remarks, which I'm going to provide. The rabbi just provided, reminded me of one that I will add. I just hadn't, you'll see when I get to it. Basically, this is entitled Thank You. And as Rabbi started with, we come into the world. Yeah. So, my mother was a Jewish mother. Mm-hmm. Now, I know that sometimes comes with varying connotations, maybe not all good, but I'll tell you, I have a lot to thank Mom for. She pushed me, work hard, improve, be better, work hard. And to the extent that I've had success in life, professionally, economically, thank you, Mom. I owe it to you. Mom wasn't all work. She actually introduced me to music. And I can tell you that she had an album at the house. I think it's just commonly known as Dvorak's New World Symphony. And I don't know how many of you have listened to the same piece of music for 50 years plus, but I have. Hmm. And this is where Rabbi comes in, because she talked about, I don't know, what about everyone you've met was a Murov?
That's what it felt like.
Well, so And I just remembered, like, ding. I was maybe a teenager. Carolyn, you're going to remember this. Lionel, you're going to remember this.
That's
Cecile,
not fair.
you might. No, really. So, I don't know if it's Harold Levy or whoever, but decided we should have Ruthie, you're going to remember this. We should have a play. And it's going to be a celebration of the Murovs. And someone took the song Together. I forgot what Broadway play it's from. Gypsy, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Tommy, perfect. The Murovs are we, and we'll always will find us together. And it's true. We filled the auditorium over there. So besides working hard in music and being together, Mom decided she would introduce everyone to a family vacation. So I can thank Mom for hard work. I can thank Mom for music, which I listen to a lot of music to this day. So she decides we'll do a family vacation with her sister, Ruth Fetter, and their family, and we meet in Denver, Colorado. And we're going to, one day, we're going to go out looking for gold. And so we go to the hardware store and get some shovels and some strainers and God knows what else. And we drive along and park our car, like on the side of the road, and hike down about a 20-yard, 25-yard slope to a stream below. And we're all there, shoveling and straining and whatever. And there's this, hey folks, this, visualize your typical southern fat belly sheriff, except this guy's outside of Denver. And, we look up and he goes, hey folks, so what are y'all doing down there? And Mom turns around and goes, we're panning for gold, officer. And this guy who typifies all the cynicism you can imagine goes, and the city sewage lady? Mom, it sticks with me until today. That's over 50. That story's at least 50 years old because we were in our early. Barry and Mimi were. Y'all might not have been teenagers yet, but anyway. So, Mom also had a way of taking a common term. She didn't know that I was going to use this term for this, and we could call this. Mom sort of had the ability. We can have it all. I can have it all. Mom had it all. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Y'all knew Mom. Everyone called her the doll because the doll was not very big. Very tall, very wide, not much weight. A doctor, you'd love to have met her doctor, puts her on a diet of after 8 o'clock at night, a milkshake and a Baby Ruth. I'm here to tell you. That's true. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm here to tell you, she didn't gain a pound and didn't get diabetes either, which, Mom, everyone knows Mom is a listener, and a good one. And I learned something about listening from Mom, including listening doesn't necessarily mean that because she listens that you're going to get your way. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. For years, I tried to get Mom to sell Fern Street. Mom, you're there by yourself. You have 4 or 5 bedrooms, a huge yard. You don't need all that. And I'm glad you didn't listen to me. Because there came a time in 2005 when Beth and Carolyn Maitland, a middle-aged couple, 3 teenagers and 2 forelegs, needed a place to stay. And we could stay with Mom. Now, there came a time a little before this, before Katrina, but after the story about Mom not exactly listening to me, when she came down to visit right before Christmas because my son had a December 24th birthday. And she gets to town. Well, I'll do that in a bit. So we're sitting on the front steps of my house on maybe December 23rd or so. And it's a beautiful day, about like today, but less humid. And this beautiful woman in tight blue jeans, a tight blue sweater, with two young daughters and a dog come walking down the street. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, so y'all want to come back maybe in about an hour and have a cup of coffee, and maybe the girls can go upstairs and play? And Beth says, yeah. And so an hour later, to the minute, second, Beth, Carolyn, and Maitland come knock on the door, and they go upstairs to play with Eli. And I've already left out part of the story. So when I ask them to come back for coffee, Mom turns to me and says, "You don't go too fast with that girl. You hear me, Ellis?" So they come back in an hour. Beth walks in. The first thing she does is start rearranging my furniture. And do you think Mom said anything about going too fast then? Mom already loved Beth. Now, for years, that's been the story, and y'all probably have a question about this, which I'll actually answer for you. But there is, and I thought about this last night, there may be a revisionist version of this story. So Mom comes down, not on December 23rd, or 22nd, maybe 23rd. We're having lunch. And Mom says, "Ellis, would you like to be fixed up on a date?" I go, "Well, sure." So Mom says, "Why don't you call?" And I knew who she was because I knew her sister. I didn't know her. And I said, "Well, so does she know I'm going to call?" And Mom says, "Yeah, she'll expect your call." So whether I called her that day, the next day, whatever, I call. And, voicemail, phone tag, this goes on for over 2 weeks because I had my first date with Beth 2 weeks after we met. And after we had our first date, I finally talked to this other woman, and I said, "Beth, let me tell you about this problem." And Beth says, "That's my cousin. You're going to go out with her. You understand?" It's a true story. It really happened that way. It's amazing. Just like it's amazing, we go to the gravesite today, and Beth's mother's family is buried about 10 yards from there. So in death, Mom has a lesson for us. So I've learned hard work, music, value family vacations. You can have it all sometimes. Listen to what Mom says, and in death, like in life, Mom was not a complainer. She self-sacrificed. Didn't ask for much for herself, and showed us some dignity. She told us how to live. She told us how to die. And I've probably talked longer than I intended to do, but it was about thank you, and thank you, Mom.
Thank you, Alice. Mimi's going to speak as well. Now I'm going to stop the air conditioning from doing what it's doing now.
Thanks, Billy. That was great. Mine won't be near as funny. That's okay. I once read a quote by an anonymous source that said, "The consistent application of ordinary values is in itself extraordinary." And I really think both of our parents had those kind of qualities. But I was actually able to tell the doll that in a Mother's Day card that this is one of the reasons that so many people really love her. And she, of course, did not think she deserved the compliment. That's kind of typical her. She was also one of the most adaptable people that I've ever known. She came from a quiet Midwestern family that moved to Texas when she was a young girl. She told me this story about the first time my dad asked her to come over here to meet all the Murovs. And she said our father took her to the Old Mirror Steakhouse. I bet I even remember some version of the Old Mirror Steakhouse. And she said there was a long table, and between all the mirrors and the hordes of Murovs that were walking in the doors over and over, that not only was she dumbfounded, but she just thought people were coming out of the walls. But she not only adapted to this larger and much louder family than she was used to, but fully embraced the Murovs. Another story she told me recounts one day, about 7 years after my mom and dad had been married. She came home to the house on Greenway, and our dad was there consulting with an architect. And this is how she found out that our Papa, her father-in-law, was moving in with her. Whoa! But she adapted, you know. And he continued to live with us for another 9 or 10 years. I never witnessed anything from her but respect for her father-in-law. And many years later, we were talking. And then this was after my dad had died too, and she said that she regretted and she critiqued herself for not doing a better job with Papa. And I'm like, if Judaism had sainthoods, you would have earned it for that alone. You know, living with your father-in-law for 9 or 10 years. After our father died, Doll spent another 23 years living alone in the house on Fern that Ellis was just talking about. She adapted really well to life alone, as so many people here have, but she was so appreciative of all the wonderful support that everyone here gave her. I remember when we were selling the house on Fern that the building inspector for the buyer came over, checked out all the mechanical and electrical systems, just the general condition of the house, and he was absolutely blown away at how well this octogenarian woman had maintained the 50-year-old house during those 23 years. He was really beside himself about it. I'm going to bring up the aftermath of Katrina again, only because, you know, not only did she open her house to Ellis, Beth, the kids, and the 2 dogs. She was not a dog person, but it was reported to me that she would pet the dogs, but then immediately wash her hands. I see Maitland nodding over there. So, you know, with the Parkinson's and age in general, once she lost the ability to make everyday decisions and to really manage the house, she really did adapt well to life at Montclair Park. And it really did seem like the staff, the other residents, and even the kids of the other residents just adored her. Maybe they just acted that way around me, I don't know. But I don't think so. I think it was true. I came back for a visit about a couple months after her move to Montclair, and I said to her, do you hate this? Because if you do, we have to make a new plan. And she said, no, I don't hate it. And she paused and said, I hate to admit I need to be there. So she understood her situation, and she just adapted to it, you know, really as best as she could. She wasn't only adaptable and quiet, but she was tough and always polite. As that active movement became just more and more difficult for her, she continued to walk the hallways of Montclair every day until she couldn't. And even then, she still wanted to. When we were just here these last couple half weeks, she's like, let's do it. But she couldn't. When she was 85, she sat through a near freezing cold rain, outdoors of course, for an entire soccer game, watching her grandson play in the Louisiana State High School Soccer Championship. Just cheering him on. She was also a great encourager, truly interested in other people's lives. I remember when I left here, many people in my generation in the 70s and 80s, left Shreveport, but when they'd come back, if they ran into my mom, or those who still lived here, if they ran into my mom, they would always tell me, and this is pretty much a quote, I remember writing this down, your mother really listens to me and asks questions about me like she is actually interested. No other adults do this. And these are coming from like people in their 20s. Even in her last years, no matter your age, she really maintained that interest and curiosity in what you were doing and how you were doing. If you were pursuing further education or skills, or keeping your day job but pursuing some other creative goals, she really wanted to know, how was it going, and she just celebrated every little accomplishment that people had, passing a test, getting something published, those sort of things. One of her caregivers actually said to me, and this is a quote, "She cared for me as much as I cared for her." It's really sweet. She was a great lover of books and art, and Ellis mentioned the music, and her musical taste was all over the place, which was really great. She enjoyed everything from La Boheme to Mahalia Jackson, from Fiddler on the Roof to the Grateful Dead, from Judy Garland to Johnny Cash. She just recognized good music and went with it. Great sense of humor, never lost the ability to laugh at herself. And she really, in later years with that voice, didn't always come out, but she had a hearty laugh. And I just want to say, rest in pure peace, dear doll. Thank you for being you. You couldn't have been better if you tried. So, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. I had one other story that someone shared. Can I say who? That Ron said that his mom bragged that she wasn't sure that everybody knew how smart Vivian was and how intellectual she was, because they have been friends their whole adult lives, and they liked going when Centenary had their book sales. They liked going for the book sales, and Ruthie loved looking up cookbooks and gardening books, and Vivian was always looking at the classics and things. That she was a reader of literature more than picture books and things like that, and I love that about her. I am going to remember that this week we read the story of, in this past Shabbat, we read the story of how Rebecca was chosen to be a wife. And the way she was chosen was that Eliezer said, "I want to find someone kind for Isaac." And so he's searching, and he went to, I guess what you'd call the watering hole, which was a watering hole. and he went, and this young woman comes up to him and showed the utmost of hospitality. She ran up to him and she offered him something to drink, but then she watered his camels. And I think that you have to understand what that means, because according to what we can tell from the Torah, there were at least 10 camels that they were traveling with, and each camel drinks 20 gallons of water, and she brought all of this water for him and for the camels and for his entourage. And when I hear that story, I think about Vivian. Not that she's running with water, I don't have that image in my head, but that overabundance of kindness in the gentlest of ways, of if you were there, and if you, in her presence, you just felt this overabundance of sweetness and kindness. And she's here. She's still here. The psalmist has written, "Weeping may tarry into the night, but joy comes in the morning. El malei rachamim, O God full of compassion, please send your comfort to those who grieve. Help them to dispel the sadness that accompanies the pain of loss and to find joy in the precious memories of Vivian. May your love inspire them to focus on the love that they had for Vivian and that Vivian had for them. Help them to face the future with courage, to treasure Doll's wonderful legacy. Sustain us in our faith, O God, even in this troubling time, as you have sustained our people in times of trouble and sorrow throughout the generations. Blessed are you, Adonai, who provides comfort to the brokenhearted. May the source of life, the fountain of all being, open our hearts to compassion and our eyes to wisdom, that we might glimpse in perfect peace and sadness, the way of all things. May Vivian's memory for us be a blessing, and may we never let the light of her love grow dim in our hearts. May we remember all her worthy and righteous deeds, that her memory be forever bound up in the bond of life. God is our source and our destination, our beginning and our end. May Vivian's death awaken us to this truth, that the bond of love we shared and share not be severed in sorrow. May she rest in peace, and together we say, Amen. I ask you to please rise. If it's hard for you to rise, you are welcome to stay seated, and we say you rise with us in spirit. The blessing that sends her to the next part of her journey, I'm going to read first in Hebrew. El malei rachamim, hamsei menucha nechona, tachat kanfei השכינה, הם קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמתה שהלכה לעולמה. בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרו בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר אמן. Fully compassionate God on high, to our loved one who has entered eternity, grant her clear and certain rest with you in the lofty heights of the sacred and pure, whose brightness shines like the very glow of heaven. Source of mercy, forever enfold her in the embrace of your wings. Secure her soul in eternity. Adonai, she is yours. May she rest in peace. And we say, Amen. We continue with the Kaddish, which is on your handouts. It is the center. The Kaddish, it's called the Mourner's Kaddish, and we think of it and we remember those who we loved. But the words in the Kaddish are only praises. All it says is how wonderful God is. And the purpose of the Kaddish is to remind us that we felt blessed to have had her in our lives, and we, in our pain, can stand and proudly praise God. So we read together in the Aramaic or in the English, but please let your voices be heard if you are grateful to God for having had her in your life. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yom echon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shemei rabba mevarach la'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to Israel, to all the world, as we say, Amen. Please let all who are gathered here repeat these words, speaking them to the mourners. The traditional thing that we say to the mourners in Hebrew is, Hamakom yenachem etchem betoch shar avelei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. Please repeat in English. May God console you with all who mourn in Zion and Jerusalem. Now go forth in peace to life. The family is going to be greeting people, receiving them in the parlor that's down the hall. If you go out this way, there are no stairs. If you go out the back, there are stairs. But I'm going to ask that the family go out first, if that's okay. The family will come out this way so that they're there when you get there. Thank you so much for coming.